And then I started looking at different ways to study these quasi-symmetric patterns, or where they could come from. And then I got interested in actually simulating these particles and finding a way to make these patterns myself. And this is also early experiments by James Whitney, which is, I think, the first film experiment I know of where an artist tried to simulate interactions between particles to make a sort of bigger image. So in a way, it's not, this film is not about the particles themselves, but about the constellations they form.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, it's a sort of animation with these particles. And this is his first film, which he made using these particles. It's called Yantra. It's a film he made before Lapis, which was really handmade.
Mm-hmm.
And then his brother made this machine, and then he made Lapis, which you just saw. And also it's, I think this in some way a precursor of something which is used a lot now in special effects. Is something which is called particle systems. It's basically where images are made by simulating a kind of fountain of little particles, dust, things like that. Like this is a fountain like that, and these particles they move, they change color, and then they die. And together they can make images of all the things which are hard to draw, let's say, or all the things which you would think in first things, oh, that's hard to do in a computer, or which in the beginning of computers were hard to do in a computer. So all complex things like smoke, dust, turbulences, all these kind of things they can do with this kind of simple simulation of matter in a way. And this technique was devised for the Star Wars, The Wrath of Khan. By the people from Lucasfilm.
When was this made?
I think it was 87 or something like that.
Okay. But your film, your number 37, is not exactly about simulation of crystals or light shining through crystal grids. It's not only a simulation, or it's different from that. And
yeah, it's in a way I use all these sort of influences or these kind of tools to, in the end I use them to make a film. So if I have to, like I'm not interested in kind of realism of the images, not, but also not in the models. Let's say, like I'm not going to say, oh, this is not like how it works in crystals.
So you use that kind of methods, but then you change them, you adapt them to your own needs to make actually images that might totally not be consistent with theories about crystals or light or whatever.
No. Yeah, in a way, what I did to make the film was to, I mean, that's what you can do in a computer. You can play God. So I made my own atoms, let's say. So these are little, like the hole in the middle is like a kind of atom or a particle. And this is a kind of force field around it. And basically, in about half of the film, what you see is that these particles are together in a kind of pot, and they pull each other, and together they figure out what they like best, let's say. So it's they organize, and then if I make these force fields in such a way that it becomes a regular pattern, they form some kind of regular pattern. And then they found it, and then I think when I changed the rules a bit, and then they...
The force is a kind of magnetic field?
Yeah, but it's all, it's all in the computer, so it's all, in the end, the software, but you could see it as a kind of magnetic field, and they pull on each other, and that's what you see. So these are different images. And this is the first time I tried it. So on the right you see the pot. I know it's a bit, it's very little dots.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that time I couldn't really get them to behave. I mean, that's the nice thing about it. Like it's my computer, it's my program, but I'm not in control really. It's more like it's more like a little garden.
What did you expect to happen?
Well, I was hoping it would form these beautiful patterns, and then it didn't. It becomes this sort of blob of
this
liquid
mandala
in
kind
outer
of
space.
patterns?
Yeah, or some kind of regular shape, so they could start changing it.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried out a lot of things to get it to work. That's what I did, and also part of the film is really it's more machine-like. Let's say it's like a sort of super kaleidoscope where you have these symmetries unfolding. Which is in a way more similar to how lapis was made, but then this is also in more than 2 dimensions.
Mhm.
And then if you shine light through it, let's say this virtual light, then you get these kind of patterns, and that's basically how the film was made. This is this is also the same. It's also this were in a way my first experiments to try out these patterns you get when you shine light through them.
And the movement, how is it directed? Like the
Yeah, it depends. I mean, it's like some of the movement is really in the particles, like these little adjustment
Yeah.
things, and then on a sort of larger scale, of course I add it in that, like I sort of
so
choose.
there's kind of turning disc.
Yeah, and it's also
somehow.
like you have in a way things like you have where the light source is. So I can move the light source, I can move the screen. So
Mhm.
that's also source of the movement is of course a sort of point of view.
So the movement
or-
is not always in the particle, but it can be the camera or
Yeah.
some other. Mhm.
And then these are the tests I did when I started making it.
Mhm. Yeah, here we see real interference patterns, very strong in all directions. And how is color? How is the color given to the images?
In a way, it's also that's like in the computer, I have this pot of crystals, particles, and then I have a light source and a screen, and in a way, it's like controlling the color, and also it's a bit like having multiple lights in different colors, let's say, and then you get this interference patterns, and also some of the patterns, the actual interference thing also adds color to it. It's a bit like looking through like a piece of glass, like basically a spectrum kind of things also.
Mhm, mhm.
So
And what part is? Of course, you're the director of the film and you are the maker of the software, but somehow it seems that you created a system that somehow goes its own way. That once you activate the software, somehow the process goes its own course. Where is actually the balance between you as a director and letting the process go in either direction it goes? How is your control or not control in this process?
yeah, I think I for a long time I was just testing out and seeing what was possible, and I'm really very much aware that at some point I sort of changed hats. Let's say, like, from some explorer, I became a film director, and then I really made sure that it has to be like this, and I'm also, and I think that's partly has also to do with the medium. Like in a way, I really wanted to make a film, like a composition,